The internet and the age of digitalization have allowed us to consume newspapers, books, and even music online, making this media accessible at any moment. There are some downsides to the digitalization of music, such as piracy and concerns about the quality of the audio files. The rise of premium audio subscriptions has also had a positive impact on the music industry.
According to the International Federation of Phonographic Industry, or IFPI, music streaming services have boosted the music industry's revenue, with digital music presently outselling all other physical music formats. The IFPI Global Music Report of 2022 revealed that 67% of the total consumption of music came from streaming music on subscription-based platforms. This is an 11.5% growth since the previous year. At the same time, revenues from subscription-based services grew by 10.3% globally from 2021 to 2022.
However, there has been a recent resurgence in the purchase of vinyl and other physical formats of music in the last decade, especially among music aficionados.
As you can see in this bar chart from RIAA, it shows the most comprehensive data on the US record music revenues, dating from 2022 and all the way back to 1973. In 1978, revenue for vinyl reached a high peak of $2.5 billion and accounted for 100% of total revenue that year. From there to 2004, it started to drop dramatically, as you can see. Then came the rise of paid subscription in 2005. To listen to music just on the palm of your hand, the revenue for these new subscriptions reached $149.2 million and accounted for 91.3% of total revenue out of the $163.4 million earned by all formats that year. Paid subscription continued to rise quickly and dramatically throughout the years as more technology and software advanced as well. But from vinyl records has come back to a rise throughout the years as well. Revenue has reached almost the same level as it was in 1985. This is what it was in 1985 for vinyl, and this is what it is in 2022 right now. It is $1.2 billion in 2022 compared to the $10.4 billion from the paid digital subscriptions.
I reached out to a couple of local South Florida record stores since I was interested in seeing what patterns they had seen in the last couple of years in terms of consumption of vinyl. First up, I spoke to Daniel Blair, the general manager at Sweat Records since they opened 18 years ago. He tells me about the shift and the resurgence of vinyl over the last couple of years.
There's been a huge shift, primarily since COVID. It seemed like while people were at home, they got into the idea of physical media. So getting to physically own something, especially in a time where a lot of things are streaming and then suddenly become unavailable and you're no longer able to access it, there's a lot to be said for physical media that you'll always own, and you can put on whenever you want to hear it rather than based on some abstract version.
Daniel personally prefers how intentional it is to listen to music on vinyl as opposed to on streaming platforms.
I love listening to vinyl. It's one of the few times that I will pay more attention to the music that's playing. It's part of just making an intentional decision, like, I'm going to listen to music now. It's not going to be background music. It's not going to be something that is, just floating in the air.
As for the customer demographic, he tells me,
our demographic ranges from teenagers to people in their 70s. And it's really fantastic, the variety that each group is into.
We are going to be taking a closer look into the RIAA US recorded music revenues from 2020 to 2022 and the rise of sales in vinyl. One record will represent $50 million in revenue. As you can see, in 2020, the year of the pandemic, it started off with a stack of 12 records equaling $600 million in revenue. In 2021, it rose to 20 records, equaling $1 billion in revenue. Finally, in 2022, it continued to rise to 24 records, equaling to $1.2 billion in revenue. This new generation has definitely brought the nostalgia of revenue back to the rise with vinyl records.
I also visited Lucky Records in Wynwood, where I spoke to Ming Lee Atayo. She tells me about the customer demographic at the store.
It's such a variety that you can't really pinpoint it. I would say mostly 25 to 40-year-olds. So when big albums drop, you have the trends of people coming in, asking for it, seeing if they have it, things and such like that.
She then discusses the most sought out vinyls at Lucky Records.
It all just varies depending on the type of person. I would honestly just say the one that sells the most, especially because we live in Miami, would be like Afro beats and Latin jazz, anything Latin, some salsa here and there.
On the benefits and drawbacks of streaming music versus having it on vinyl, she tells me,
not only is it you have a physical copy yourself, which is one of the reasons that I prefer it, it's also the fact that streaming services don't provide the artist a lot of profit. In order for someone to make at least $1 on a song being streamed, they would have to stream it roughly like 100, maybe even 1,000 times. And so, you could buy one record and the artist will profit it more from that than having to play a song repeated for 3 hours.
She expresses a similar sentiment to Daniel by saying when we purchase a vinyl and listen to it fully, music becomes more intentional.
Streaming continued to account for a large majority of recorded music revenues in 2022. As you can see, paid subscription services have accounted for 84% of total revenue. Digital downloads accounted for 3% and sync 2%. Physical seems to take up 11% of the total revenue and continues to make its way up as the generation rises in bringing back nostalgia of collecting physical music.
The resurgence of vinyl is continuing to grow. Not only have we seen this data represented in several studies, but there has been a renewed sense of community in local record shops that have also been propelled by the satisfaction of owning a physical copy of an album.
Nowadays, we can have both the convenience of modern technology as well as owning a traditional analog format. As the worlds of physical and online music coverage, the coexistence allows for a promising era for music aficionados.